look who's coming up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily, coming to you live from the Marsh, just outside of Edmonton, Alberta, where it's gotten a lot chillier in the last little while in this area, which definitely is making it feel more like fall. And you know what that means? That means baseball playoffs. That means the start of the NFL, the start of the NHL, and of course the start of the NBA. So it's the one time where we'll have everything running at the same time, and you'll have to go from 2 TVs to 4 TVs in the household to be able to catch it all. All of the action. We'll try to get you all set up on this show when it comes to fantasy and watching sports in general. Here's what we have on the show lined up. Derek Van Diest of Post Media and NHL.com. Working on a deal to get Derek to join us every week, so that will be really exciting. I love his passion, his honesty. He's one of the nicest guys out there, but he's also not afraid to call you out if he disagrees. So the only bad thing is he's a Cowboys fan. So we'll talk to him about that. Also, I'll get him to tell the story about why he doesn't play fantasy anymore. Ray Cotto from All-22.com. You're going to like this if you are serious into fantasy football like we are at UFFS. This is a different take on it. And we'll also talk with Ray about the football season, you know, guys he likes, guys he doesn't, etc., and how you can get involved. Our Dauber Hockey NHL team preview is the Carolina Hurricanes today. I'm always excited about the Carolina Hurricanes, and one of the reasons I threw up the old whale. That's a Jordan Martinook Whalers jersey that I have there. So we'll feature the Carolina Hurricanes paying tribute to the Canes with the whale. I used to hate that logo as a kid. I don't know why, but it's grown on me. We'll get to our top 3 question of the day games to watch, and we'll have fake locker room sound. Our spy picked up some sound after the Twins Yankees game last night. And of course, I want to say hi to everybody chiming in, watching on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Ultimate Fantasy Sports. You're watching live, obviously, if that's what you're doing right now. But if you missed anything, and we archive all of our shows on YouTube, just search Ultimate Fantasy Sports on YouTube or wherever you find your favorite podcasts in audio format. So chime in on Twitch. Tell us where you're watching from, what your name is, and what you're into when it comes to fantasy. We start things off every day with a question of the day. Today's question, after watching Bo Bichette go yard 3 times yesterday, I thought, why not? Let's ask this question about who is the greatest second-generation athlete? So son or daughter of a professional. And there's lots of them out there. There seems to be so many more now. I don't know if that's because just the skill development is there now, and obviously professional athletes have access to more facilities and things like that. I don't know. It didn't seem like this when I was in the 80s growing up. Like, there was a couple of guys, and obviously there was brothers, but the offspring of NHLers I've noticed, and obviously, you know, you see in, you know, Christian McCaffrey in the NFL now. We were seeing all kinds. Just look at the Blue Jays. They're full of MLB offspring. So who's the greatest second-generation athlete, son or daughter? Bo Bichette, 3 home runs last night for the Blue Jays. Huge boost for Northern Fury as they try to catch the Prairie Wheat Sox in UFLB. And that could have, you know, put somebody over the top. Huge matchup. We'll get to top performances of the night when it comes to fantasy in a second. But, man, that was impressive. So, I'm not sure Bo Bichette's going to make this list, but he was the inspiration for this list. I've got two guys. One is Ken Griffey Jr., who, I think is one of the greatest players of all time, and obviously got to play with his dad. I think they both hit a home run in the same game. And the other guy I'm going with is Brett Hull. Brett Hull scored 86 goals. The only guy to score more goals in a single season than Brett Hull, or two guys. Mario Lemieux had 87, I believe, and Gretzky had 92. Brett Hull was, a lot of people thought Brett Hull was going to be just kind of a journeyman hockey player. The Flames trade him. He ends up with Adam Oates, and boom, 71, 72, 86 goals. Just lit it up. And we know what the kid did, Ken Griffey Jr. He's one of the names of a division in UFLB. So, question I'm asking today is, who is the greatest second-generation athlete? Threw it out on Twitter as well. Love to get your response on this one. As there's a lot of certainly a lot more options than there used to be. And I think it's kind of a neat question. So we'll get into that. We'll continue that as we go. We'll revisit that throughout the day. Our top three today. Top three quarterback, wide receiver, stack combos. That's what we're looking for now. Your top three wide receiver, quarterback, stack combos. I think Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs is going to be number one on most, if not all of the lists. That's not to say this is the combo that leads everything, because lots of things could change. But going into the season, how do you not pick those guys? Josh Allen is the preseason pick for MVP for most people. Diggs was dominant and has been. So probably, if everyone stays healthy, and that never happens, this is your best on paper, in my opinion, combo. Now, the number two combo is pretty awesome as well. You had the Triple Crown leader in receiving last year in Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford, who helped them win a Super Bowl. So that's a pretty good consolation prize if you were going for that. Number three, maybe a little wishful thinking for me, but I think this could be deadly. And if you go with like a triple threat, then you'd have Darren Waller there as well. But Derek Carr, as we talked to Jamie Thomas yesterday, was one of the top point producers in that and wild AFC West, for a good portion of last year when Waller was healthy. Now you give him arguably one of the best receivers in the game. Derek Carr could end up a top 5 quarterback points-wise at the end of the season. I'm not saying he's a number 5 quarterback in the NFL, but in fantasy, and, that's such a competitive division, the Raiders could be trailing. And you could get a lot of bonus garbage points with Carr and Adams late in games this year. And I'm telling you, people make fun of garbage time wins. Why? They don't ask you how pretty your victory was. Last year in fantasy football, I won the first 8 games, lost 6 straight, then ran the table to win it all. There's no asterisk on the trophy. I just won. That's all it is. That's why Derek Carr, I think, he's a guy who could, I think, win a lot of fantasy titles if everything, works out like it's supposed to be for the Raiders, which almost never happens for the Raiders, right? Like, when have you ever looked at it and said, that Raiders team is not dysfunctional at all? Not in the last few years, that's for sure. Like, there's been all kinds of problems and terrible things happening. If they could just climb out of this now with talent on the field, Vegas will love them. Just like the Golden Knights. I mean, the Golden Knights came in on fire in the National Hockey League. That was great. Okay, I want to get to, before we get to some news and notes, have a little fun here. This is a funny video put together by Tua fans in, I'm guessing, Miami. So here's a little fun for you Dolphin fans when it comes to your quarterback.
Greetings. The season of retribution is finally upon us. A lot has been said over the last couple of years about Tua Tagovailoa. The haters have been loud in repeating their lies over and over, but the time has come where Tua will get his revenge. First off, all of you Tua non-faithful should give yourselves a pat on the back. Tua is as confident as ever, and that's because of all of you. You followed the off-season guideline perfectly by combating the fake news sports media and also constantly praising Uno and referring to him with proper names such as Big Arm Tua. There is no doubt we have all helped boost his confidence, especially valued new Tuanon member Tyreek Hill. Tyreek went above and beyond with his praise all off-season. You could tell he studied the off-season guideline perfectly. And in the words of Tua's renowned trainer, Nick Hicks, a confident Tua is a Super Bowl contender. Now we have our in-season guideline.
If you're looking at your cheat sheet there and you're like, I like this. If you feel strongly about somebody, take them. If you're looking at your cheat sheet there and you're like, I like this guy down here better than this guy, take him. That's just a guideline, the cheat sheet. It's a guideline. You got to go with your instincts. You can't win your league on draft day, but you can lose it. It's all about who you pick. And this is the foundation for the season. This isn't your team for the year. This is your foundation. You tweak, you pick guys up, you drop guys. You're going to pick 3 or 4 guys that are going to be absolute duds. Recognize that before they hurt you. And there's going to be breakout guys every year that you got to have on your roster that no one's going to draft. You got to figure out who those guys are. Don't overreact to week 1. There'll be guys that play horribly that are going to have great seasons, and there are guys that are going to go nuts who never do anything the rest of the year.
Mom, are you ready to go?
We'll see.
All right. Let's get things back in action here on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily, live on Twitch, or you may be catching it on the replay on our YouTube channel, Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. You can also find that wherever you get your podcasts. Really excited to welcome in our next guest, a guy I've known quite a long time. Enjoy watching and chatting with him at the rink, and I look forward to doing it a lot more this year. It's Derek Van Diest of Post Media and NHL.com. We were just in a rink a while ago, and man, we're going to be back in rinks right away again, DVD, because the season is around the corner. Weird, because there's been so much summer hockey the last couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the most I've spent in an arena because I went to the Memorial Cup and I was there, I think, until June 29th. And then I was hoping to take some time off in August. And, of course, we had the World Juniors here. And then I was back at the downtown community arena this weekend talking to some guys at the Oil Kings training camp started up again. And then the Oilers are starting their informal skates this week, and then you got rookie camp next week. So, yeah, I guess it's, basically spent the entire year at the rink.
Yeah, it's wild. And hopefully we get back to a normal schedule for the sake of the players, and then they're looking at World Cups and everything. Like, this has been, it seems like 3-4 years of just straight running when you think about the bubble that you obviously experienced and all that stuff. Like, it just seems like it reminds me of the Davis Cup. You know how the Davis Cup never seems to end? It's like, this has been like a 4-year NHL season.
Yeah, it has been. It's been weird, and it seems a little bit surreal now that thinking back to the bubble and then thinking back to the entire season without any fans. And then actually the World Juniors felt it a little bit like that too with some of those games that no one was coming to. It felt like you were in the bubble. But yeah, so hopefully we get a semblance of back to normal this year. We'll be traveling with the team again this year. We're just kind of working out the travel schedule. So hopefully things go well and it's not disrupted again by COVID. Of course, it's been interesting to see. I'm not sure what the situation is with the locker rooms yet. I'm not sure if the Oilers going to open up the locker room or if team's going to open up the locker room or if we get back access to that. But it'll be nice to have some semblance of normalcy again. with the season and just being it back to the way it was before COVID.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a simple thing that people in media might not understand, but a Zoom interview compared to sitting there talking to a guy in a one-on-one situation, people don't realize the difference in the information you can sometimes get.
Oh, it's completely different. It's like night and day. When you're talking to a guy, you're talking like they just feel more comfortable around you. They get to know you. They know who you are. When you're on a Zoom call, you're just another face on a screen, and I think that's really important when it comes to developing relationships with these players and trying to get the best stories out of them. That's what we're looking to do. Is we're just trying to get the best stories out of them. We just don't want the I guess canned stock quotes that they have after games and things like that. Is when you really get to know a guy, or you really get to understand him, is when you get a chance to sit down and talk to him in their locker room and with them. And usually they don't have their guard up as they would when there may be 3 or 4 players around them or 3 or 4 media guys around them. So I think that that's the thing that I think we miss most, is just that interaction with players. And we had it a little bit, Dean. You and I, we were down at the World Juniors. We had it a little bit with players when they brought a guy in and you talked to him by yourself, or there was 1 or 2 of us that was able to talk to him, and they really kind of opened up and they told us some good stories. And I think the best story at the World Juniors was the Czechs were telling us about Laddie Smeed coming into the dressing room and giving them a pep talk after they beat the United States, and he stepped on the logo and they ended up fining him. I think they talked to Smeed about it. I think they fined him 2,000 krones, which is about $100. Smeed said. He said, it wasn't a smart move. He accidentally stepped on the logo they had placed on the floor, and he got fined for it. So I thought that was a pretty funny story.
Yeah, those are things that probably don't come out in Zoom. And we talk about, hockey players being really buttoned down and they're kind of bred and trained to not give away too much. And that doesn't happen in conference calls or scrums very often. It's the sort of the one-on-one chats that you get, and you find out some really cool things. How about the, last time we talked to you, it was Patrick Kane rumors, and, those are, I guess, still out there, although they've died down a little bit. Now there's the Jake Virtanen possibility. The Oilers are one of the teams, apparently, that's interested in bringing in Virtanen on a PTO. Where do you think he lands? Do you think the Oilers need Jake Virtanen? Do you think there's an NHL team that will bring Jake Virtanen in?
I think they will. I think they will bring him in. I think I think he's an NHL player, so it's going to be interesting to see. You can never have enough depth up front, in my opinion. You can never have enough quality NHL players, and I think the problem with the Oilers is that they're still $6 million over the cap. And so they just signed Ryan Murray to a incredibly low contract. You look at Ryan Murray. This guy was a 2nd overall pick when the Oilers were about to take. The Oilers almost took him 1st overall, and had they listened to their scouts, they probably would have taken him 1st overall. But I think we all know the story where the owner seemed to overrule their scouts, and he went with Yakupov. Yakupov is obviously no longer in the league. And Murray's kind of hasn't worked out the way a lot of people thought. A lot of people thought he would come and be this number 1 defenseman, and he could play in your blue line for 10, 12 years. And he just didn't work out that way. So to get him at that price point if he still has that potential. I know he's been struggling with injuries a lot. He can still do it. So Virtanen is a guy interesting guy. You can bring him in depending on the price point, but you still have to make some room for him. And I think he's a guy that can help you on your depth. But yeah, the Oilers still they got to find solutions for $6 million. I know obviously some of that will go on long-term IR when it comes to Smith and Oscar Klefbom, but they're still up against the cap, so there's still got to be some wiggle room here. They still got to make some moves to bring in a free agent like that.
Yeah, for sure, and especially if they're even remotely still wanting to get in the Patrick Kane sweepstakes and stuff. So something is going to have to happen. And Virtanen, or rather, you mentioned Ryan Murray, and I agree. I wish they would have taken it, because Murray and Nugent Hopkins at the same age, and it just seemed like a better fit, but he's here now, better late than never. Sam Gagner is another guy that was talked about. He ends up in Winnipeg, and I was chatting with Jamie Thomas there, and I think Sam Gagner in Winnipeg will do the exact same thing he was going to do in Edmonton, be a mentor, not get upset if he's benched, and provide experience for that team. Yeah,
Sam Gagner came into the league as a top 6 forward, as a guy that the Oilers were hoping would be part of that. You know what? I've lost count of rebuilds now, Dean. I think it's the first rebuild or the second rebuild. Whatever rebuild that Sam Gagner was part of, and him and Cogliano or was supposed to be part of that rebuild. But now he's really kind of extended his career as a depth guy, as a role guy. And you're right, as a mentor, as a guy that can help some of those younger kids, show them how to be professionals. And I think a lot of people talk about that, is that you need those mentorships to show these young kids that they're coming into the league at a younger and younger age. And so you need someone there to kind of show them how to do the everyday things, how to be the everyday professionals, how to live that life, that NHL life, and get the most out of that career. And I think Sam Gagner is a good guy to do that. And this is a guy that, again, he signed in Winnipeg, but who knows? Come trade deadline, you may need some character players on your team. You need some guys that can chip in, and he might be one of those guys. And I know he's always been a fan favorite here in Edmonton. They were disappointed when he got traded away the first time, disappointed got traded away the second time. So there's always a possibility there, but there's always going to be room on rosters for guys like that, especially when you have a younger team, especially when you have young guys that can be mentored, which is the case in Winnipeg right now.
So Vancouver, big signing with JT Miller. A lot of people thought there was going to be a trade there. Do you expect there's still to be a trade in Vancouver? Is somebody have to go? Is that Bo Horvat who needs to be signed? And, if you were looking at it, what would you do in Vancouver? I don't know if they're going to be able to fit everybody in. I think somebody's going to have to go with JT Miller signing that long extension.
Yeah, they're going to have to make some room there, but I think their window's still open. And you look at Vancouver, what they did in the bubble, they upset they had a first round upset in the bubble. We saw that there, and they're supposed to be building from there. And I think they've taken a couple of steps back since then. But I think the pieces are still there in Vancouver. They still have some talented pieces. They have strong goaltending. They have a good back end, and I think you're looking at that team. And if I'm Vancouver, I'm looking at that Pacific Division going, okay, well, Anaheim's not going to be very good. LA, they're not going to be great. Calgary, take a step back, losing their two best players. Obviously, the Oilers are still there. So you're looking at that division going, we could make a run at this division. We could really contend in this division. So I think they do have to make some room to fit some players in. But I don't think they're selling off assets right now. I think that they're looking at ways to keep their assets and keep competitive, because I think this window in Vancouver has opened, and I think it opened probably a little sooner than they expected, winning that playoff series in the bubble. But I think it's still there, and I think they're heading in the right direction. And especially when you look at the Pacific Division, there is opportunity there with the other teams still kind of in the middle of their rebuilds.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Western Conference this year, and just looking at kind of individual, I wonder, who's going to lead this conference in goals. Jack Eichel in the conference for another full season. I think Bob predicted both McDavid and Draisaitl to get 50 goals, which would be pretty awesome. Kyle Connor is a guy that, is going to want to be knocking on 50, and who knows who we haven't talked about. But there seems to be a lot more, and guys are scoring 100 points and 50 goals and 60 goals. So it's fun to see again. And now we have some more choices, like guys that could lead the Western Conference in goal scoring. There's a lot of candidates.
Well, you got Jonathan Huberdeau in the Western Conference now too. So,
that's right, yeah.
There's a guy, right? There's a guy that got 100 points last year, and he's supposedly going into his prime, and he was excited about going to Calgary, signed a long-term deal there, got a lot of money based on that really good season. So there's going to be high expectations on him. But yeah, here's another guy that's really talented, had a great season in Florida, and now he's going to Calgary, and that's another guy that you throw in the mix. So I think the Western Conference and the Pacific Division in particular is going to be a high-octane division. There's going to be a lot of goals being scored in that division, basically because some teams are still rebuilding and they're going to have trouble keeping the puck out of the net, and other reasons because teams like Edmonton, like Vancouver, like Calgary will have that offensive dynamic flair. I'm really kind of interested to see what happens in Vegas, whether or not they can maintain that window. Vegas, they took a different approach. They basically signed every big free agent on the market that came out there, and now you're wondering whether or not they can maintain that level. They're going to need a goalie because they lost their goalie out for the year. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm curious to see what happens in Vegas with all those veterans, whether they still have a lot of gas in their tank. But I think it's going to be a really, really fun year in the Pacific Division. There's going to be so many goals scored in this division, and teams are just going to be running and gunning, I think.
I think it's just awesome that, we get to see Eichel and McDavid in the same atmosphere a lot. And, you have to ask yourself, is anybody going to challenge Connor McDavid for the scoring title? Could it be a Jack Eichel playing with Mark Stone and some others, best line mates he's ever had? Do you see anybody taking a serious run at Connor McDavid for the scoring title, or is it like the 80s where you just, start engraving his name at the start of the year?
Well, actually, I think the only way someone threatens McDavid with the scoring title is if McDavid gets hurt. If somehow he misses, he doesn't have to miss a lot of games. If he misses 10, 15, 20 games in the year and he gets his schedule shortened, then I think other players have an opportunity. If McDavid's only playing 55 to 60 games and other players are playing 82, that's how you catch him. I don't think if he plays 82 games, I don't think anyone's catching him. I think McDavid will get 50. I think he'll push the 150-point barrier. I think he's such a dynamic player, and he's still reaching his prime. That's what the scary part about McDavid and Draisaitl are, is that they're still 2 or 3 years away from their prime. They're just getting there. And then I think this year Ken Holland's done a good job of surrounding them with talent, surrounding them with a good supporting cast, so not all the pressure is on them to score every night. I think in the last couple of years, if McDavid and Draisaitl didn't score, then the Oilers weren't winning games. And I think that's kind of changing. There's going to be a shift to that a little bit. I think there's not going to be that much pressure on them to score every night. But saying that, they're still the two most dynamic players in hockey, whether you play them together or you play them apart. They're going to score a lot of points. And to me, the only way McDavid doesn't win the scoring race is if he loses 10 or 15 games due to injury.
Who do you think challenges Austin Matthews for the Rocket Richard? I think Leon Draisaitl is going to take a run at it again.
I think he will, and I think Leon Draisaitl, he took issue with not winning it last year. And then you got to understand, Matthews is just another guy that's kind of reaching his prime. Can Matthews get 60 goals this year if he stays healthy? Yeah, that's obviously a possibility. He's probably one of the best finishers in the game right now, and you put him up there with Alex Ovechkin, and you put him up there with Leon Draisaitl, and just the shots and their ability to kind of finish opportunities. But all Austin Matthews needs is half a look, and he'll put it in the net, and that's how accurate his shooting is. So, but yeah, I think Leon Draisaitl, that'll be a goal for him. That'll be he say, hey, Leon Draisaitl believes he can score 60 goals. He thinks he can match up with Austin Matthews, and McDavid wants him to win that as well. So I think that's going to be a really interesting race. But you got to wonder, what has Ovechkin got left in the tank? Like, does he have another 35, 40 goals in him? How long can he be playing at that level? And there's other guys as well, but I think it'll be really tough. Austin Matthews is just his ability to finish, and if he stays healthy, I can see him getting 60 goals this year.
So Patrick Kane rumors, last time we talked to you, we talked about it. They seem to have died down. You still think that this is going to happen at some point, or do you think this is going to be an in-season?
I think it has to be in season, because just right now, what is his salary cap? $10.5 million, I think, is that his hit or something like that? So if the Oilers are going to fit him under their cap, like I said, they're $6 million over, then you'd have to ask Chicago to take half of that salary. And I don't know, does Chicago want to eat $5 million? Do you have to make a 3 kind of way deal or something like that? I don't even know if that's allowed anymore. So there have to be a lot of maneuvering, and I'm sure if Chicago says, well, we're going to eat $5 million, but you got to send us a really good young prospect. So would the Oilers be willing to part with a Broberg or, some of these kind of younger guys, a Reed Schaefer or Dylan Holloway, to bring Kane in here? And I think that's what it would cost them. It would cost them that. And then you'd have to still move Puljujarvi, that $3 million. You'd have to move a couple other contracts as well. So it'd be tough to get in here, but I think this is a situation where if Kane doesn't sign somewhere else or he doesn't get traded to somewhere else, I think at the end of this or midway through the season or towards the trading deadline, this is a guy that by then his salary won't be as high, and you can kind of move him in and you can kind of move some pieces to make room for him. But right now, unless Chicago says, we'll take 50% of that salary, and if they don't, then it's going to be really, really tough to fit him in under the salary cap.
All right. Lastly, you're a Cowboys fan. You used to play fantasy. Tell me why you don't play fantasy anymore. It's quite common and quite funny.
It is funny. I played in this. So I was invited into this fantasy league, and I kind of dabbled in fantasy for a little bit. But I was invited to play in this fantasy league. Basically, it was a keeper fantasy league. You kept your team, and it was pretty complex. It was a lot of fun. But the issue with me is that I kept forgetting to set my rosters, and I remember this was just at the start. They didn't have the Thursday night game every week, so they have a Thursday night game every every now and then. So it was before they started playing Thursday nights, and so I'd go on Saturday to set my roster. I was like, oh yeah, I got to set my roster, and then I realized I was locked out because there was a Thursday game, and I don't remember how many times that happened. Or I'd go Saturday night, and oh no, there's a Saturday game, so you can't set your roster, and it would upset so many guys because they would take it pretty seriously, and it would upset guys, not necessarily the guy I was playing. The guy I was playing, hey, that's great, you forgot to set your roster. You got 3 guys on the bench. That's awesome. It was the other guys in the league that were upset, were fighting for playoff spots and things like that, and they were taking it very seriously, and then they were upset that every time I came up and I forgot to set my roster on a Thursday, just for whatever, whether I was on the road or doing something with the owner, you just kind of slipped your mind. So finally, my good friend said to me, listen, there's someone that's kind of interested in your spot. I was like, yeah, let him have it, because I know the guys were upset, they're mad, and I was tired of getting the angry emails about, hey, set your roster, because you're screwing me over here by not setting your roster. So I thought that was quite funny. But, fantasy, it was interesting because you watch the games a lot differently than you would if you just cheer for a team. And I think that's kind of what makes it interesting, what makes it fun. So I can totally see the appeal. I just wish I had more time to dedicate to it.
No doubt. Well, down the road, we'll talk about your Cowboys and whether this is the year. A lot of people picking Dak as a top 5 quarterback, so maybe they can get it done.
Hopefully. It's funny, it's tough to get a read in preseason. I don't think Dak had a snap in preseason. So, and I don't think Ezekiel Elliott had a carry. So preseason is really weird now. Before it used to be with the guys who would play a couple of games and kind of get their timing back. Now it's seeming like the 3 games, they just want nothing to do with it. And they got all the guys trying to make the team. That's what they use, the 3 games for evaluation. I'm pretty sure it'll go down to 2 games soon, like the CFL, and they'll do the 18-week schedule, because if these guys don't want to bother playing in those games, like, it almost seems like a waste of time. So it'll be interesting to see. But, yeah, I think they got a good team. They look loaded. Hopefully they stay injury-free, and I'm a big fan of Dak, so I think he can do a lot of damage this year. That offensive line still looks strong, and then you still got Zeke Elliott running the ball. So there's a lot of weapons for him to use, and I think the Cowboys are going to look good this year, but it's the Cowboys, so they always find a way to disappoint you sometime.
All right, DVD, thanks so much. That was a great chat. I can't wait to do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. There's Derek Van Diest of Post Media and NHL.com, covers the league. He's covered things from the Stanley Cup to the World Cup. He's been everywhere. Great guy. Love chatting with him. Always get the straight goods from Derek Van Diest, and no wishy-washy. That's what I love. I just, you get an opinion. It's a strong opinion, but he's not a jerk about it. He's a really nice guy. And a lot of people could learn that you can still have strong opinions and you don't have to piss everybody off all the time. So good stuff with DVD. We'll try and get him on every week if we can, if he is available for us. Love chatting with him at the rink. The fun thing is that rink is downtown. You go cover a game, you can go to one of the nice pubs in the downtown area that we have now. There's some good ones. So looking forward to... that used to happen a lot more in small town. DVD would know about this. He worked in Medicine Hat. When I worked in Red Deer and Regina and Brandon, the media, and we always got together after. It doesn't happen as much in the big cities, so maybe we'll have to bring that tradition back of getting everybody out for a pop or something like that after the contest. When we return, we're going to do something called Fake Locker Room Sound. We have a little bit of fun with this. We used to do it on TSN 1260. So that is coming up next. We snuck a microphone into the Minnesota Twins locker room yesterday. So that will be the theme. We'll also get into some sleepers for this year's NFL season. We'll revisit our top 3 question of the day and much more. This is Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily on twitch.tv/Ultimate Fantasy Sports. It is 4:45 Eastern Time. My name is Dean Millard. Thank you so much for being a part of Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily here on our Twitch channel. Also, these are uploaded to YouTube and put out in audio podcast format for you to listen to as well. Just search for Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. By the way, some guest updates for you for the rest of this week. As mentioned, we're going to try and get DVD on the program once a week. Andy McNamara will join us every week. Jamie Thomas will join us every week. Larry Fisher will join us every week. We're just getting sorted out. Few others as well. Tomorrow, Matt Bove, who covers the Buffalo Bills, is going to drop by the show right off the top of the show to chat about the Bills and the Thursday night game. That's going to be a lot of fun. And on Thursday, Mike McKenna, former NHL goaltender, now with Daily Faceoff, is going to join the show. Been chatting with Mike on Twitter for a couple of years, so it's I'm looking forward to that. I love his opinions. I love his personality, his humor. Who knows? Maybe we can get that guy worked out weekly. We want to bring as many great guests to you guys on this show as possible. Give you as much fantasy information as you need. Andy Mack says, I love that studio, Dean. Lots of great memorabilia. I like it too. My wife, not so much. But it's fun to pick different jerseys. Maybe we'll have to have like a poll question to pick the jerseys. Andy Mack says, Bills have to be the AFC Super Bowl favorites. Of course. I think the Bills, they're certainly the best team in that division. And there's going to be some, the AFC West is going to be awesome, but the Bills, you're right, Andy. I think they have to go in as the preseason favorite. Prestige Worldwide Sports saying Broncos going to win the Super Bowl.
Child, please.
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. The Broncos winning the Super Bowl? No. Yeah, Prestige Worldwide says, you heard it here first. Yeah, because nobody else is saying that. Here's the amount of people, other than Prestige Worldwide, saying the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl.
0.0.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Totally your opinion. All right, my opinion on some NFL sleepers to take a look at it, as you're going. Now, obviously, some of these guys are going to be waiver wire pickups, and some of them you're going to maybe go out and trade for. If your draft is still happening, that's pretty cool. Maybe you can look at some of these guys. So, you look at a guy like Christian Kirk. Just on the amount of targets and the amount of action, Kirk could work his way close to the top 40. He's probably like or top 20, sorry. He probably is like a top 40 right now, but he could maybe get back into the deeper top 20. Remember, there's no DeAndre Hopkins to take away catches. So volume alone, Christian Kirk is going to get some action. How about Khalil Herbert? Running back in Chicago. There's a new sheriff in town for Chicago. They have nothing when it comes to rewarding David Montgomery or loyalty. Herbert did not play in spite of the fact that he was good in rookie camps. And so there's talk that Herbert is going to be ahead. Maybe they start off ride sharing, but I think Khalil Herbert could emerge as the number one guy. Drake London, I've seen this guy a lot in this sort of category. Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder. So, does that inspire confidence? I guess this is a sleeper. The only good thing about that is the Falcons are going to suck, and they're going to be throwing the ball a lot late. Kyle Pitts and London are going to be the two big targets, and so they are going to end up with lots of garbage points. Again, garbage times wins fantasy. And you can get these guys, like you can get either one of those guys late. David Njoku, a tight end, 9 yards per target last year. And he played in every snap in the first game in first week. So you know this guy is going to get playing time. Then he rested. Austin Hooper is gone. That means David Njoku is going to be the man. And he's hopefully going to take advantage of it. Like there are articles I've read where David Njoku is like the target tight end that guys are going after. Jerick McKinnon, another running back in KC. It's going to be interesting what happens with the Chiefs. I've had Clyde Edwards-Helaire in fantasy for a few years. His rookie season was great, but he has not been actually his rookie season was good. But I just thought that there was going to be so much more out of the backfield action. And CEH has been a disappointment in Kansas City. Stellar was excellent in the postseason. So if you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I would recommend picking up Jerick McKinnon as the handcuff because at some point it's going to happen. And we just talked to Derek Van Diest about the Dallas Cowboys. Michael Gallup is interesting. He's not going to play in week 1, but he is a guy that, and he might not play for the first 4 weeks or 3 weeks. But if you can fit this guy into your roster and just leave him there, you are going to be the benefactor in a few weeks. No Amari Cooper. That was the number one option. Cedric Wilson is gone. Gallup is going to get a lot of targets when he gets back. So if you have the room to throw this guy on your roster, just sit on him. Sit on it, Potsy. That's what you do. You sit on it, Potsy. So there's a little sleepers for you. We'll get back to the chat here. Andy Mack says, I'm telling you, don't sleep on Njoku at tight end. Read my Sportsnet article. Link on Twitter at AndyMackMC81 on why Jacoby Brissett in 2017 with the Colts gives Njoku a big upside. There we go. I was just talking about that, guys. So there we go. Andy Mack chiming in with live fantasy advice. Love it. Larry Fisher says, DVD sounded like the Oilers are penciling in Virtanen. But he might be holding out and hoping for a contract offer like Gagne instead of accepting a PTO. It's a good fit if he signs for league minimum $750K, especially if they're moving Fogle for cap space. If I'm Jake I'm not offering Jake Virtanen a contract if I'm an NHL team. I would offer him a PTO and see how he fits, see how he works out. Yeah, he was proven innocent or not found not guilty or whatever for his sexual assault. That doesn't mean that this player hasn't had some issues, and you got to be careful. It's PTO or nothing if I'm an NHL team and Jake Virtanen. The kamikaze in UFHL is hoping it happens because they got him on the roster and held on to him. Larry says, one nice thing about total points format versus head-to-head is you never have to worry about others screwing you by not setting their lineups. They are only screwing themselves in total points. For shame, DVD. Yeah, we should ring that shame bell for DVD.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Andy Mack, Cooper, target 1, then Njoku is number 2. So there you go. Fantasy advice from Andy Mack. Very cool. Sorry, I think we went offline. I think we might have went offline there. My thing said the stream was offline, so I apologize if we did or if that was just me. So anyway, there's my sleeper picks for this year. Christian Kirk of the Jags. Khalil Herbert of the Bears running back. Drake London, Falcons wide receiver. They're going to be behind. Njoku, you just heard from Andy Mack. Jerick McKinnon in the Chiefs, especially if you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Michael Gallup, receiver, Cowboys. Like, Michael Gallup's going to have a super season if Dak is a top 5 quarterback. Who did we talk to the other day? Oh, it was Phil Beavis, who thinks Dak's a top 5 quarterback for fantasy. Gallup's going to get a lot of targets if that is indeed going to happen. Okay, let's get to our fake locker room sound now. And then we'll duck out for a quick break, and we'll bring in a really, really fun guest that we're going to chat with today about more football than fantasy. That's kind of their tagline, Ray Cotto of All-22.com. But before we do that, we need to get to our fake locker room sound. And that's where spies that we have drop a microphone into a locker room and bring us the sound. Sometimes it's that night, that day, sometimes it's the day after. This is the sound we got from Twins manager Rocco Baldelli after they lost to the Yankees. Like, somebody scored a run for the Yankees for the first time in 5 days. The Twins had this Yankee team, and the Twins need to win. They need to get into the playoffs. They're not getting in. It's either them or the Guardians. They're not getting in on a wild card spot. So Rocco Baldelli, he was not happy yesterday.
Get down. Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
No.
What are you having fun for? That's what losing sounds like.
Wait for it. Yeah. Rocco Baldelli, not happy that the Twins were dancing on the tables. Also, R.I.P. Jason Giambi in that movie. The guy dancing on the table when Billy Bean walked in. All right, so that's fake locker room sound. We have a little fun with that every once a week, different things, and we can always bring in some other stuff as well. When we come back, though, we're going to get into some really cool, more football than fantasy talk. Something I think you're really going to get into, especially if you're like us and you love like realistic, high-end fantasy, well, we love it at Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. You're going to love All-22. I can tell you about all22.com. Ray Cotto is going to join us. It is very cool. We'll talk, of course, some fantasy football, and then we'll tell you about this wicked setup that they have. It is very, very cool. In the meantime, I'll get Ray all set up. Give me about 30 to 60 seconds, and we'll be back right after this. We are into the second hour of the show. That means we're that much closer to the start of the NFL season. I mean, the college football season got off to a pretty fun and wild start. Ended last night, or the first week ended last night. I got confused with like week 0 and then the first week. But college football was a nice little appetizer. Thursday night, Rams, Bills, the real thing. And I think everybody is certainly excited about that. Certainly we here at Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports are. And I know the gang and the team over at All-22 is as well. Ray Cotto joining me on the program right now. Ray, thanks very much for joining me on the program. Is it hard to sleep for you guys with the football season so close right now?
Hey, dude, thanks for having us. And yeah, it actually is for many different reasons. But yeah, the excitement of the season coming up and, you know, right around the corner, it's awesome. You're actually counting down the quote unquote sleeps before the NFL kickoff. It's the best time of year. So yeah, it's great to be here. It's a great time of year. And yeah, can't wait. Just keep that clock ticking till kickoff Thursday night.
No kidding. It is really the best time of the year, I find. I mean, you're going to get all four sports of the major four sports, and soccer seems to play forever, so that's going on at the same time. I mean, everything is happening right now. The U.S. Open is just wrapping up. It builds so much excitement. You know, as much as I'm in northern Alberta, so as much as I love summer and our winters can be really cold, this fall time of the year, just it's almost impossible not to get excited no matter what sport you follow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like right as soon as September 1st hits, you know, and the leaves start changing, and it's like Mother Nature's like, you must watch football. You know, I'm changing the leaves for you. I'm going to make it nice and cold so you have a reason to not want to leave the house and go outside and do yard work so you can stay in and watch as much football as possible. So I think it's, you know, the universe coming together and telling everyone it's time. It's football season. It's here.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to talk about All-22 and how cool that is in a second, but let's just talk a little general football and some fantasy. We did our top three today, was our quarterback, wide receiver stacks, and I'm not sure many people are going to argue with the number one there. Maybe there can be, but these are my three. And Carr Adams, maybe people aren't on that train as much. I'm a Raiders fan, so I threw that in there. But your thoughts on the wide receiver quarterback stacks, and maybe a few others that you would throw in there as well.
Yeah, I think that list is fine. I think 2 and 3 is more debatable than Allen and Diggs. I think they've established themselves and they've solidified themselves as the top duo in Buffalo. It's definitely high flying out there with Stafford and Kupp in LA. I know Stafford's been kind of dealing with some sort of injury or something, this summer. So you're not sure how that'll quite affect him. And then also, it's not so much Stafford or Kupp so much as now you're throwing Allen Robinson into the mix there, who everyone forgets how good he is. Right. And so he's going to take away a lot of targets in a good way, of course, from Stafford. And that might diminish that Stafford Kupp stack per se. You do have the whole David Carr and Devontae Adams being college teammates and the chemistry there. I do think another one, and it's people don't think about it because most people just, they see maybe the Cowboys taking a step back as a whole this offseason, but Dak and CeeDee Lamb, right? I mean, who else is going to actually garner targets in Dallas, right? Cooper's gone. Michael Gallup is coming off an ACL injury from late last season. He's not 100%. He's probably not playing week 1 or maybe the first few weeks of the season. So we'll see when he even comes back. So the next one up is a rookie, Jalen Tolbert. So a veteran like Dak is going to really target and force feed someone like CeeDee Lamb, who he's now had for a couple of years. And I think over the past couple of years, with the weapons they did have in Dallas, they really just spread the ball around and didn't make it a focal point of their offense to say, we have to make sure we get the ball in this player's hands, whether that was Cooper or Lamb or Gallup, depending on matchup. They just said, hey, we're going to run our offense, and wherever it takes us, it takes us. I think now they have to switch that up a bit, and you're going to really see Lamb get some more targets there, which if you're stacking those two, the yards and touchdowns are going to come for Dak, right? The offense is there, and Lamb, I think, is going to be the biggest beneficiary of that. So I think if there's a contender to add to this list, it's probably Dak and Lamb.
Yeah, I like that as well. And I like that you mentioned Michael Gallup. He was I threw up some sleepers, and I threw him on there just because he's a stash guy, right? Like you said, he's coming off injury. He's not playing week 1. I don't know if he's always going to play in the first 3 weeks. If you can afford to stash him when he comes back, if it goes true to your prediction and CeeDee Lamb and Dak get all this chemistry and Gallup comes back, they're going to need somebody to take the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. So I think he's a sleeper that you need down the road. The rest of these guys could do some damage. I know our one of our big NFL guys, Andy McNamara, loves David Njoku with the Browns. But your thoughts on these guys, and I'm sure you have some other names for the sleeper candidate that everybody always wants to know, right? People think this is, you can make the right picks with number 1 and 2 and 3 rounds, but sometimes sleepers can put you over the top.
Yeah, so I'm actually hoping that that Njoku prediction is correct, just for the sake of my Scott Fishbowl team this year. Basically got wiped at tight end before I was able to even make a dent in the depth chart. So I'm relying on him to produce some points, and we'll see, right? I mean, you have the Jacoby Brissett era there, and until Watson comes back in Cleveland. So we'll see just sort of what that offense looks like if they rely more on the tight end as a result, because they are going to run the ball, but maybe those shorter sort of intermediate routes to the tight end will be a focal point there. And then outside of that, I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe I love him so much that he's a sleeper to others, but he's not to me. But to me, I think Chase Edmonds is a huge sleeper. I think he could be a league winner this year in leagues. I just love that offense. I'm a big Mike McDaniel stan, coming from, that whole Shanahan tree, and just the way they, it's so running back friendly, and there's so many weapons that are just going to that defenses are going to have to allow to breathe, right? I mean, between Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you're not going to have many stacked boxes or safeties looking to defend the run there early on. So I really think that's a great situation. And I think Edmonds, when he's had his limited touches, earlier on in his career. He's been extremely efficient. So I think he really has a huge opportunity to take the majority of snaps there in Miami and just run with it in a running back friendly offense with a lot of weapons that could score a lot of points, as long as Tua's even just competent or adequate or whatever words you want to use, in being a good bus driver for that offense. I think there's some huge dividends to be had there from someone like Chase Edmonds.
The rookie veteran dynamic that plays out on so many teams is so interesting, and I don't know if it's any more interesting than in San Francisco, which has been talked a lot about with their situation. I went on record last week. I said Jimmy G is going to do something important for the 49ers at some point this year. I'm not saying he's going to take over and be the starting quarterback, but at some point he's going to come in and help this 49ers season. What do you think?
Yeah, I think sometimes people in the off season, right, if you're a hardcore fan and you follow everything, you kind of have an image in your head of how the season's going to go, right? Oh, okay. Trey Lance sat for a year and now it's his time and that's it. And Jimmy G disappears forever, right? I'm not a huge Jimmy G fan, but the NFL is messy. Things happen, injuries, suspensions, whatever. I mean, it's just, people forget the craziness of the NFL. Like, I mean, just think back to the last game, when it came down to basically the entire world rooting for a tie between like the Raiders and the Chargers, right? And how that whole thing shaped out. And that was just one of many. We saw how the first couple of rounds of the playoffs really shook out. And just the NFL is a crazy business. The season is long. It's messy. Things happen. And when you have a young quarterback that has not fully established himself in an offense, right? And there is a veteran quarterback presence there that we now know is not leaving. When things get messy and the nature of coaches and how they like to sort of fall back on what they know, what they're comfortable with, Jimmy G, while he may not be great, might provide some of that comfort. And so, yeah, you could see it's not far-fetched to see a scenario where the 49ers are really counting on him at a critical point in the season, whether that's late, early, or just, in the dog days of October and November. So, yeah, I think it's absolutely a very realistic scenario and something you could see bear out, even if Trey Lance is the answer long-term.
Yeah, and if Trey Lance struggles a little bit, there's going to be a lot of veterans saying, give me my Jimmy G. Like, give me the guy who knows, that there's going to be a lot of that talk if there's some early struggles. All right, let's talk about all-22. So more football than fantasy. I love that tagline. But you can check it out, www.all-22.com. We love fantasy football realism, and in our platform, we try to have 32 franchises, rosters. You guys are doing something similar when it comes to realism, but different than anything I've ever seen. Explain all22.com.
Yeah, thanks. So All-22 is the first and only fantasy football platform that we actually use PFF grades as a main component of our scoring instead of yards, catches, touchdowns, interceptions, right? And so by using those grades for our scoring, that allows us to incorporate every player on the field, hence All-22. That includes offensive linemen, every defensive player that's on the field. And, so some might be familiar with IDP, but we also have a positional weight assigned to every position because obviously the performance of your quarterback is more important than that of your center, for example, right? That's kind of the common example there. So each position is assigned a weight. So if you have an edge rusher that does really well and is getting a ton of pressure, that matters in the real game, right? So that matters in All-22 as well. And you're not just, if you're in an IDP league, if this he didn't get a sack, but he got a ton of pressure, you kind of get screwed, right? This encompasses the full performance of a player week to week on the field. So think of it as, in simplest terms, it's Madden franchise mode in a fantasy football format where the user will draft a full team and as if they were their own NFL GM and starting from scratch, right? If the NFL threw every player into a pool and had a draft tomorrow, who would go first? It wouldn't be Jonathan Taylor. It would not be Christian McCaffrey. It would be maybe Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, or Patrick Mahomes, right? Same thing applies for our game. So the user, when you sign up for All-22, you really are just being basically placed in the seat of an NFL GM, and you're building a team from scratch, a full roster. You're setting a depth chart, right? Not lineups. Mm-hmm. Lineups are for baseball. Depth charts are for football. You're setting a depth chart every week. You're rolling out 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense, a kicker and a punter. And based on the totality of their performance, you are seeing who wins, week to week. So it's a, fully encompassing GM-like experience in a fantasy football format. We're super excited for it. It's our first season going live. The response has been incredible. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and we just can't wait for kickoff Thursday night.
Yeah, no kidding, especially when you have something as cool as that. All-22.com is where you can get more information, and I love it. We try to do the exact same thing. A 58-round draft is how we started. It lasted, I think it still might be going. I'm not sure. It was crazy. But it's the ultimate. It gives you the ultimate feeling of what running a franchise is, and the work that goes into it, and the cap restrictions and things like that. And on the video, and people can see that on the screen if they go to the website, I like how you guys give some examples of, an example of a quarterback getting, a bad play when it comes to fantasy stats, when it was actually the receiver's fault, or the cornerback made a great play. And so, we've seen this a lot. It's not how, it's how many, but sometimes how is important because, the quarterback does absolutely nothing wrong and he gets the minus.
Exactly. I think we've all been screwed by that, right? You're watching a game, whether it's an interception that bounces off a receiver's hand, or if you're in an IDP league and you have a corner that's playing fantastic, not giving up any catches or yards or anything, but because the opposing offense is not targeting him, it's a big fat zero. It's almost useless, right, in an IDP. So we want to encompass that totality of a corner's performance and all players on the field. So it's not just an arbitrary, oh, you got screwed. Sorry, you lost 2 points on the pick there. Or, you just have a goal line back or something, or your tight end did nothing, but he caught a 2-yard pass in the flat at the goal line. So now all of a sudden he's got, 7 PPR points or something like that. And he does better than someone who's, actually gotten 4 catches for 40 yards or something like that. Right. So we want to make it, again, a true sort of measure of performance and impact of every player on the field.
The amount of work that must have gone into this. How long have you guys been working on this?
Yeah, so we've been working on this for about 7 years now, actually going back. So if you recall, I may be the only person on the planet maybe who had Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson on his fantasy team in 2015. And not only didn't win their league, but didn't even make the playoffs, right? And so we, myself and my 2 co-founders here, we were part of a dynasty league, and we were just trying to figure out how to make it better and more realistic. And Blake Bortles being a league winner and being the reason for your team being in a championship is just not realistic, right? It never was, never has been, never will be. And so we just said, okay, well, how do we eliminate that, right? How do we eliminate that sort of arbitrary garbage time, just, fluff essentially, right? And we just kind of went down this road of, okay, well, now that we did that, how do we include offensive linemen? They're so important in the game of football. Mm-hmm. They should be in fantasy as well, right? And so we eventually went down this road, and 7 years later, and here we are, and, working with PFF to make that happen. And like I said, two nights now from kickoff. So it's super exciting, and a lot of hard work and time has been put into it.
Yeah, indeed. I implore people to check out the website, all-22.com. Certainly takes fantasy to the next level, and that's what we try to do. And I love it. I love that fantasy is evolving. I don't know if you play any other sports, but football is the only sport where weekly leagues work. I mean, baseball and hockey or basketball in a weekly league, that's the dumbest thing ever. So I'm so glad that fantasy is evolving from what it was to what it can be now, and we have choices. And this is another great choice, because I'll tell you, I watch fantasy in all sports I watch sports in all sports based on who I have on my fantasy teams now, as opposed to who my favorite team is.
Yeah, well, now you're going to have to pay attention to the big uglies on your TV on Sunday, too. You're going to be paying attention to that left guard, seeing if he's picking up stunts properly, giving up pressures. You're going to be in your draft hoping you don't get sniped, right? Someone sniping a left guard from you, which has never happened before in fantasy before now, right? It's just so much more to take in, and it just makes it all the more exciting, right? If late in the season, you're keying in on whoever, right? A left tackle, Lane Johnson, to see if he's performing well, because you know that when that grade comes out, that's the difference between making the playoffs in your fantasy league or not, which in the real game, the play of your offensive line could be the difference between making the playoffs and going home. So again, why not in fantasy? And so now here it is.
Tom Brady's going to find that out this year, possibly.
Good.
And
that's
fantasy owners. And fantasy owners,
exactly.
for sure. Ray, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for giving me some time. I'd love to have you guys back on again and chat fantasy football throughout the season. Are you guys planning to expand past any other sports, or are you working on football right now and then go from there?
Football's the main one, but yes, we definitely have plans in the future for other sports as well. Definitely taking the time to master and nurture football first, right? And then perhaps college, and then sort of roll out to other sports from there too, because as you kind of touched on right at the start there, college football this past weekend was crazy too, and we love ourselves some college football, so we want to include that as well. Perfect.
Thanks so much, Ray, and best of luck with it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dean. Take care.
You bet. Take care. There's Ray Cotto. You can check it out, all-22.com. Kind of like what we're doing, but different scoring systems, obviously. And like I said, I just love that fantasy sports in general are evolving to the point where we don't have to set our lineups on Monday and then not look again, because that's the reason I quit my one hockey league. I'm like, I'm tired. And it was during COVID and games get canceled. It was just a gong show. Never again will I play in a weekly league unless it's football. So that's my rant for today. That's my fantasy football rant. Do not ever play, or fantasy sports rant. Do not ever play in a weekly league. They're not fun. You just set your lineup and you don't do anything. And for the people that say, oh, there's no skill in a daily lineup, you just start the guys. Obviously, your team sucks then if you have no choices. Sorry. If you say that you have easy choices all the time, your team is not good enough. Because you should have choices when you're in daily fantasy for multiple position guys and things like that. So there you go. All right, we're going to dive into the Carolina Hurricanes team preview presented by Dauber Hockey when we come back here on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. 5:25 Eastern Time on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. Thanks for tuning in on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network here on twitch.tv/Ultimate Fantasy Sports. I appreciate Ray Cotto from All-22 joining us, all-22.com. And we had Derek Van Diest on the show earlier as well. My name is Dean Millard. We are here Monday through Friday. It's 4 till 6 p.m. Eastern. Also, I just threw up a poll question in the chat. Not sure where it is, but it was there. Oh, there it is. Who will lead the Carolina Hurricanes in scoring this year? So head on to the message board of our Twitch channel, and you can vote on that. Your choices are Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Brent Burns, or other. So have your say, vote on who will lead the... And if you are saying other, chime in on the message board and tell me who you are picking. As we will now get into our Carolina Hurricanes team preview presented by Dauber Hockey. You can get the Dauber Hockey Fantasy Guide right now. Just head to dauberhockey.com. It is out of sight. We'll show you a little bit of that in a second. But the Hurricanes, I find them always in the mix for playoff spots, competitive. What they don't do is give out a lot of really long contracts. Like they let Dougie Hamilton walk. Unless you're going to be young and with them for a long time, they're not paying you. Now, they might trade for some contracts like they did with Brent Burns, but they don't sign a lot of contracts. Right now, Aho leading the way and other. That's a tie, actually. 50% voting for Aho, 50% voting for other. So if you do pick other for the Carolina Hurricanes, who will lead them in scoring, please throw down who it is that you are indeed picking. Just getting the, just trying to find that Hurricanes thing that we have up here. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so the top three fantasy players for me when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. The first two are I think, easy enough. Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov. I think they were 1-2 in scoring last year. And I went with Brent Burns as the number 3 guy. They picked him up. I think Brent Burns is going to be excellent on their power play. And I think you might see a resurgence in Brent Burns in the offense this year. By the way, if you're watching our channel and the ads pop up and you do not like it, you can get this channel ad-free. Just grab a full subscription and boom, you're in the mix. Ad-free, no more commercials. You don't miss anything here on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. So if you want to go ad-free, just get a full subscription and you get no more commercials here on Twitch. Oh, Svechnikov getting a vote now as well. So Aho, Svechnikov, and other are the choices right now to lead the Hurricanes in scoring. You can chime in on our Twitch chat very easily. Just log in and boom, you are in the mix. So we're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes right now. Sebastian Aho, Svechnikov, and Brent Burns are the 3 guys I'm going with that I think are going to be the 3 offensive stars, let's say. Aho at 50% now leading the vote. The breakout candidate, I'm going with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, the guy they threw the offer sheet out when it came to the Montreal Canadiens. And obviously a guy who is, taking his time a little bit. There's a lot of great players ahead of Kotkaniemi on the depth chart. I mean, this depth chart has him on the fourth line with Jordan Martinook. I like Jordan Martinook. His jersey is right behind me. Right there. That's the Martinook whale. But if Jesperi Kotkaniemi is going to break out, he can't be on the fourth line. The fourth line?
Child, please.
You cannot do that to Jesperi Kotkaniemi. That's my breakout player. Let's check out what Dauber Hockey has for some Carolina Hurricanes lines. So they have Tervainen, Aho, and Seth Jarvis. Svechnikov with Kotkaniemi and Martin Necas. So that's a better spot for Kotkaniemi. Jordan Stahl, Mr. Reliable, with Andre Kosh and Jesper Fast. Ryan Dzingel, Jack Drury, and Jordan Martinook. See, I like that lineup. Certainly a lot better than Kotkaniemi on the fourth line. Burns and Slavin, that's going to be, you know what? For Brent Burns, this is going to be like playing with Marc-Edouard Vlasic. That's what that's going to be like. Reliable, steady defenseman. Impressive. And when we go back to the graphic that we have for the breakout player I mentioned, Kotkaniemi, I got Jake Gardiner as my sleeper. Now, I'm sure the Royals and Arnie Entz would like Jake Gardiner to make a lot less than $4 million. But Jake Gardiner is going to, Brent Burns is going to be the majority of the guy, especially on the playoffs. But Gardiner could chip in. I think they got him on like the fourth line or the third pairing or something. Oh, right now, Aho, 60% of the vote, Svechnikov, 20, and other 20. Again, if you're voting somebody else than the three names on there, please throw it down in the message board. Would love to find out who the others are that people are voting. So that's our team preview. Of course, the goaltending is one of the biggest question marks for this franchise. Freddie Anderson hurt at the absolute worst time last year. They have everybody's favorite Uncle Antti Ranta as a backup. But if Freddie Anderson is healthy, this is a good team. Now, we've talked a lot about some teams that aren't going to be good in the NHL, but will produce fantasy players. This is a franchise, a team, an organization that's going to do both. You're going to see a Carolina Hurricanes team that, I don't know, why can't they challenge for a division? I don't know why you wouldn't be able to challenge for a division for Carolina. Obviously, some things have to go right. But if Freddie Anderson is healthy, I like this team. I like what they're building. I like the addition of Brent Burns. Larry said, I voted Svech. Big year coming for the strong island forward. Yeah, and he had a good year last year as well. I think he led them in scoring last year, actually. Oh, Aho led them in scoring. Svechnikov had 69 points, but he had 30 goals, so a couple of 30-goal scorers. And then don't forget about Teuvo Teravainen. So they replaced Tony DeAngelo with Brent Burns. Great locker room guy. I like the Hurricanes this year for making the playoffs. And, I think you can go fairly deep with, what their roster might be. Once again, let's check out what Dauber Hockey has for this Carolina Hurricanes lineup. That's a good lineup. You've got some skill, but also smart, steady players in your bottom six. Martinook, Stahl, Ryan Dzingel. Nason has some physicality. If you're, throwing other guys in the lineup. And you've got some really skill up front. I think the two things that are going to factor in the most are, can Jesper Kotkaniemi get it going? And can Freddie Anderson hold up? Larry, Dauber Hockey agrees with you. They have Svechnikov putting up 82 points. Sebastian Aho has 84 points, though. So that would be a big year for Svechnikov, for sure, if he could reach that. And on the back end, obviously, you've got Slavin and Burns. Like I said, that's basically Vlasic light. Maybe even more offense. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce. And then Jake Gardner and does Ethan Bear fit back into that lineup? Like, that's an offensively mobile blue line. You know, your top pairing predicted to get 45 and 48 points, 17 goals. Your second pairing, you got him over 50 points and 15 goals. And then their third pairing, you got him over 40 points. You got 10 goals. That's a ton of offense being predicted by Dauber Hockey for the Carolina Hurricanes. That means that this is a deep team for fantasy. Yeah, depending on how your strategy is. Do you like to pick a team and go after them? I do. I like to, like we just talked about in our top three, wide receiver quarterback stacks. I like stacking players from the same team. I got a bunch of guys from Vegas, or a bunch of guys from Pittsburgh this year. I have a couple of Vegas guys. I think it's, you know, it can backfire. Certainly if the team struggles. Like last year, if you went with Vegas, you would have been in big trouble. Big trouble because they obviously struggled. But this is a Carolina Hurricanes team that looks like, if these predictions come through, going to be very offensive when it comes to fantasy sports. I think that's awesome. Oh, by the way, you got to check this out. Head to UFFsports.com and check out the bracket challenge. We're into the final. So, the Stingrays took out the Warriors, and the Black Bears took out the Sparrows. So, can you believe this? The Stingrays are taking on the Black Bears in the final. And both of those franchises are owned by the same person. Arlo Scholl's having a day. Wow, the Stingrays and the Black Bears. So you can head to UFFsports.com and you can vote on it, and you can actually win some cool stuff just for voting. So check that out at UFFsports.com. You can find out all the details right there. We're into the final now, so you can find out exactly how you can get in that. And there you go. Larry says, I like that 82-point prediction for Svech. That's ballpark what I was envisioning. Yeah, you get a couple of guys with 80 points. Listen, they don't have the flashy 100, 115, 125-point guys. But you look at their depth and their roster, there's a lot of points being predicted all throughout that roster. So it's very, very cool indeed. Speaking of cool, I'm going to duck out for a commercial break. We're going to come back with games to watch and more. But while we're away, check out this amazing Ultimate Crypto Driving Championship. Get yourselves ready to race at great heights to become the global sim racing champion. Create your crypto livery. Enter with the best designs. Enter to win prizes. Outrace your competition. Winning is all that matters. Watch the other racers in your rear view mirror. Gain massive exposure battling against the biggest names in crypto with a season-long race for the championship. Bring glory to your token. Drive like a champion, win it all. be first or last. If you're not rubbing, you're not racing. Get behind the wheel and drive for your project.
You're seeing this as live as we are. Matthew Wolf on the tee. That's the Wolf pack. The howls. Where's this going? Into the hole, that's where. A first ace in Live Golf history. Matthew Wolf flying high for the High Flyers. What a moment for him, and what a moment for the gallery and for Live Golf. A hole in one.
I love the wolf howls.
Look at the reactions here behind him.
He's loving it. He's loving it.
Well, we've come close a few times in previous events. Graham McDowell was less than a foot away on a par 3 in Bedminster, but Matthew Wolf, you're seeing this.
Very impressive. This is Billy Horschel was pretty blunt today, hitting out at, quote, hypocritical Live Golf members in action at the PGA Championship, the BMW PGA Championship. Horschel says, quote, the Abraham Answers, the Taylor Gooches, the Jason Korkraks, you've never played this tournament. You've never supported the DP World Tour. Why are you here? You are here for one reason only, and that's to try and get world ranking points because you don't have it. And he went on to say, I know some of those players regret listening to their agents. All right. The war continues. You know, Cameron Smith, the latest to join Live Golf and that tour. As I've said all along, I just want a Live tour against a PGA tour at some point. That's what I want. So you saw that video we played during the commercial break, VR Racing. It's the ultimate crypto championship. It's crypto-centric professional sim racing. There's a league. The primary goal is to provide an effective marketing tool for crypto projects to get noticed. That can be very expensive with questionable results. VR1 Racing provides a year-long entertaining platform that gives projects ongoing exposure. Full broadcast on Twitch and YouTube, metaverse watch parties, design contests, and more. Really, really solid marketing opportunity. More details at uffsports.com/VR1. So check that out when you have a second. It is definitely going to be awesome. It's going to change quite a bit when it comes to sponsorship and advertising and promotion and all sorts of fun stuff like that. All right, let's take a Let's take a look back at our question of the day. Who is the greatest second-generation athlete? The son or daughter of a professional athlete. Who is the greatest second-generation son or daughter of a pro? I went with Brett Hall and Ken Griffey Jr. There's a ton of choices out there, though. So chime in on the Twitch message board or wherever you are on Twitter at Duck Millard, at UFS Network. Wise Guys Prospect says, my favorite of all Arlo's branding is the skates from UFAHL. Larry says, sounds rigged. Arlo under investigation for ballot stuffing. At minimum, he bought some votes with the score coin. Funny stuff. A Skate HC brand is wicked. I think the best brand is the Truculent Owls. It's so great, and it looks very much like Brian Burke as an owl. So I like that. So chime in. Greatest second-generation athlete. Son or daughter of a professional athlete. Also, our top three today, quarterback, wide receiver, stacks. I don't think anybody's going to go away from the number one team there in Buffalo. The rest can be debated, though. And it was good. Ray Cotto brought up some good examples. So if you missed that, check out that interview. It'll be up on our YouTube page later and in audio format if you prefer that sort of thing. We also told you about some Major League Baseball news. This is tough. Justin Verlander likely not ready for September 13th. That's next Tuesday. A week from now, he was supposed to come back. The Macaws don't need him because they're not going to make the playoffs in UFLB, but the Macaws need him healthy because he's going to be a high pick in the playoff draft. Good news for Wander Franco and the Tampa Bay Rays, though. He could be activated and return on Monday. A little rehab stint this weekend for Wander Franco. The Blue Jays trying to hold off Baltimore. They're getting right-handed pitcher Julian Merriweather back in the bullpen, so that helps out. And the Cardinals are getting Jack Flaherty, who was out with shoulder discomfort. The Dallas Keuchel experiment is over in Texas. The Rangers have released Dallas Keuchel, and the Boston Red Sox have signed Kike Hernandez to a one-year deal, keeping him in free agents, keeping him away from free agency. Oh, by the way, yesterday we were talking about this with Jamie Thomas a little bit, and in the AP Top 25 now, and we said it, Georgia is number 2. Oregon falls out, and I'm guessing Ohio State was bumped to number 3. Yeah. So it's funny. Georgia got 17 first-place votes, actually. That's a lot for one game. Does that not seem like a bit of an overreaction? Everybody was worried about everybody they were going to lose to the NFL draft. They don't look different, and now they're number 2. Now, Alabama's still heavily in front. But we'll see. I don't see anybody taking Alabama down at all at this point of the season, but we shall see. We talked about some NFL sleepers today as well on the show to help you out if you're looking to, stash some guys or possibly you've got a draft that is right before the season. Michael Gallup, the guy at the bottom. He's not going to play for a couple of weeks, but we talked with Michael Cotto about that. CeeDee Lamb could be the go-to guy, as obviously probably is going to be the go-to guy. But at the first little while in my work, Gallup could come back at the exact right time to take away some coverage and obviously get some points. So you might want to have, if you have Dak or CeeDee Lamb, you might want to grab both of these guys if you can. Jerick McKinnon, another running back that if you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you should want to have this guy as well. Just simply because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get banged up at some point. Drake London from the Falcons. David Njoku, he's going to be a really popular one. Really, really popular. Yeah, Andy McNamara, one of our football gurus. He's a Browns fan, but he absolutely loves one. Christian Kirk with the Jaguars as well. Okay, top shelf fantasy performers from last night. And man, yesterday was a really fun day of baseball to watch. And, depending on what team you cheer for, but, the Dodgers are my favorite team. They're so far ahead. It doesn't matter for me. I know they're going to make the playoffs. I want them to be healthy. But the drama is all over the place in Major League Baseball right now. Bo Bichette. What a night! Spencer Strider had a 27-point night with 16 strikeouts for the Atlanta Braves last week. And Bo Bichette puts up 27 points yesterday. Now, it was a doubleheader, but he did most of his damage. The 3 home runs in one game. 6 for 10 in both games, 3 home runs, 3 runs, 7 RBIs he drives in, and an OPS of 2.10. That is huge.
He's hot. He is hot. Keep feeding that guy.
Yeah, get that guy up to bat. Like try and sneak him up to bat when somebody else is supposed to go up. He is red hot. Lance Lynn of the Chicago White Sox, and actually Bo Bichette, huge for Northern Fury to try and catch Prairie Wheat Sox. And this is cool. Lance Lynn plays for the White Sox and the Prairie Wheat Sox in UFLB. And the White Sox and Wheat Sox starter picked up 27 points last night. 7 innings, gets the quality start because he didn't give up an earned run. The win, and 11 strikeouts.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Now the Wheat Sox can dig that. And then a double shot for the Reapers. Phil Beavis loving Mr. Shohei. Ohtani picks up 17 points, just a batter last night. 3 for 5, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 3 runs driven in. 2.60 OPS. And he wasn't pitching, or else it would have been more.
Dynamite!
The Reapers did get a good pitching performance, though, from Jose Suarez, and so did the Angels. 17-point nighter. That's big.
Huge. That's huge. Huge.
The Reapers pitcher goes 7 strong, gets the quality start and the win, 0 earned runs, and struck out 7. So the Reapers loving that one. Both their guys end up in the top shelf fantasy night performances. But Bo Bichette, the big man on campus, 27-point night for Bo. It was a doubleheader, a couple of doubleheaders yesterday. But that's impressive. That is very, very impressive stuff. So what are we looking at tonight in Major League Baseball? The Mets and Pirates are going to try to get at it. They were postponed yesterday. Obviously, if you're a Blue Jays fan, you're going to be watching what the Blue Jays are doing. Twins and Yankees is postponed. That's unfortunate. So we don't get to see Aaron Judge. He's at 54. Judge did hit a home run last night. It was wild in that Twins game yesterday. Marwin Gonzalez hit a home run for the Yankees. First guy anybody in 5 games scored a run not named Aaron Judge. So it's unfortunate that we're not going to see the Yankees tonight because that is postponed. But you also got quarterfinal action going on at the U.S. Open. So lots of fun stuff to check out tonight. Do some more research. Pick up those sleepers. Get your fantasy roster lined up. And get ready for Thursday night football. Just a couple of days away. So tomorrow we're going to take a look at things from the Buffalo Bills point of view, right off the top of the show. Thursday, Mike McKenna, former NHL goaltender, now with Daily Faceoff, is going to join the show. And we'll see what else we can get up to. Would love to have your suggestions, what you'd like to see on the show, different sort of things like that. Oh, first time chat from Big Grumps. I need some help. In my flex spot, do I play Darnell Mooney or A.J. Dillon? Or Chris Godwin if he plays? Well, I like Godwin, but Dillon is probably the safest. So that's what I'm going to go with there. Godwin, if healthy, obviously you've got some good quarterback help, but certainly I think A.J. Dillon might be the safe bet if Godwin isn't there. So Big Grumps, thanks for chiming in. Love when newcomers join the program. I absolutely love it. So Big Grumps, appreciate you chiming in, asking that question, and I hope you join us again another day. We're here Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern from the Marsh just outside of Edmonton. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back right here tomorrow with another episode. As mentioned, we're going to take a look at the Buffalo Bills tomorrow, and maybe we'll take a look at the Rams on Thursday. Andy McNamara will join us on Thursday to preview that one as well. Have yourself a wonderful day. Is it Tuesday evening? We'll see you again here on Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. See you tomorrow.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.